Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. So, I want to go over the three aspects of resistance that we as human beings during the transit have to deal with, and how each one of them, I will go over it quite quickly, because in the second half, I want to talk about how to prepare ourselves for changes that are coming in short term and long term. We talked about first, there were three groups of being. The first being the fall of Lucifer, as far as a resisting force. Well, before the fall of Lucifer, there was Satan. And the way the Kabbalists describe it, it's S-A, one word, Tan, with a T-A, where the A has an accent on it. So it's the idea that there was an adversary or force created when the giver broke down the receiver into shattered pieces and created, in a spiritual detonation, the entire universe, with time and space emanating from that explosion out at speed and velocities and force that we cannot even imagine. It also manifested at that very moment a force and a super intelligence that was designed to help remove our shame and our undeservedness. But the way that shame and that undeservedness get activated, that energy system uses our karma. In other words, if you feel like you sin against somebody, because we are aspects of the receiver, we have to learn to give and receive from each other. If you feel in some reason in one lifetime that you have hurt somebody, or you were not in your heart and you were not grateful for what you receive, or you try to take things for free and you try to be greedy and etc., that creates negative karma and it creates a bond between both sides. In future life, you have to be born again, connected again, show up in maybe different forms, slightly different, but to go back and to try to balance the scale. And we're seeing this replayed out for individuals, for families, and even for nations. And so that force that makes it difficult for you to figure out that it's a repeated pattern that's getting repeated over and over again, and that, wake up time, I have to do something different. That resistance is Satan, that intelligence. Then you end up also having, after the creation of men, the story of Lucifer. Supposedly that was envious of or jealous of the fact that God wanted all the angels to prostrate in front of man. Although that story, there are different versions of that story. And Lucifer is often referred to as the deceiver, or the king of the world, or the king of Babylon. We're going to get to that in a minute. And then the third aspect, or what they call in the book of Enoch, in multiple places, they have different name. The native people call them Wetiko. The inorganic being, Carlos Castaneda calls them. Book of Enoch calls them the Watchers. There were 200 guardian angels. They are called the Beni Elohim, that were sent to earth to protect, watch, and be guardian angel for men. But they desire and had lust for emancipated and had lust for human female. And in the process of doing this, they took human form, they descended, they fell, they made a different choice. They collectively made the choice together. And then as they made the choice, they cascaded down the dimensional scale. And as they did, they took human form and they copulated with human female. And as they did, they changed our genetic destiny. They changed humanity, they mixed with our DNA, they did all kinds of things, and they kind of unraveled. They did something that was not planned, or apparently not planned. The way they influence us is that, of course, they brought with them also secret knowledge or information, forbidden knowledge, as it's called in the book of Enoch, information that at the time of our emotional and spiritual development, because we were just out of the Garden of Eden, there were things we were not prepared, or we didn't have the maturity. The knowledge was too advanced. We didn't have the emotional maturity to cope with it. The same way, for example, and I know AI, as its development is accelerating, is being spurred by the same Beni Elohim who are working in the background. We don't have the emotional maturity to govern the leap and bound that digital and mechanical intelligence is making right this moment. We don't have it, but yet we are doing it. It's being done nonetheless. So it's going to end up biting us as we evolve and grow. And hopefully it won't be too catastrophic, a la Terminator, where the machine will take over, or Matrix, where the machine will take over. But it is something our generation and the generation to come will have to contend with. I want to go back, since we talked about in great details the way of course, the Beni Elohim, or the Watchers, or the Archons, because the Gnostic called them Archon, influenced us, is that they actually they are in the background. They are like because they're blended with our DNA. You and I cannot a lot of time differentiate what is an influence that's coming from them and what is true to our own emotion. So when they are resisting us or manipulating us, they make it feel like it's a real feeling and a real emotion. And therefore, as that happens, we are not even aware, and we think it's our free will choice to do this or to do that or the other. All they do is that they take a little bit of our own bias and they inflict them to the max. So I just wanted to bring that to the front to make you understand what these beings are doing in the background. So I had given you protocol to deal with the Archon, which is you confront them. First, you ask yourself, is this really coming from me? Because when you will know when you're being influenced by them, because the kind of feelings that you're having, the emotional reaction, is become so big and so exaggerated that it doesn't match what's going on in the outside. Every time you see yourself exploding in rage or anger, and your reaction is so big for what's going on outside, it's the alcohol. You're being pushed. And what you have to ask yourself is this 100% mine? And if it's not 100% yours, what percentage of this is me? Find out what the percentage, and if 80-70% of it is not yours, you now call Archangel Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael and ask them to come in to basically remove, because they were in the book of Enoch, God gave them the commandment to go after these archons and imprison them. So you're going to ask them to filter that particular influence out from your system and to cleanse you. Gabriel was to do this, to cleanse, to purify our genetic race. So you're going to ask them to do this. Whereas for Hasatan, there is no hiding and no camouflage. You will know point blank that you're under attack. They are not hiding, they are not cloaking. That energy system will literally put your neck on the ground and shake you down. And it's typically connected to a loss of some kind, loss of identity, loss of money, loss of health, it's a loss. And it will literally shake you. Or sometime, and when you're experiencing those moments, the way to get around it is to be grateful, to still praise God, and to still realize no matter what's been taken away from you, you're still on your way to the new earth. And as we're changing dimension, going from 3D into 5D, you cannot take the 3D with you. And whatever God chooses to take away from you, you have to be big enough and trust enough to say to God, even if that were to be taken away from me, I still would praise you and I would still be grateful for everything that you have given to me. And if you can go in that space where emotionally that's what you're feeling, and that's what, then all of a sudden the Hasatan will not be able to influence you anymore, because his role is to take you to the edge. And if you can get at a point where you realize, you say, that 3D stuff, whatever it is, identity of who I think I am, maybe I thought that I was Bambi, but maybe I'm not Bambi. Maybe I'm Little Mermaid. Maybe I'm Little Bo Peep. Whatever I am, whatever I'm becoming, I trust you and I praise you for it. And if you can do that, then it automatically changes the dynamic, and all of a sudden the influence of Hasatan will cease, and your reconnection to God will now be deserving, and the shame that you had that created that caused Hasatan to initiate the test will be removed. Now I want to talk about the Luciferian influence. Lucifer is not Hasatan, because people keep thinking it's that, there's a lot of controversy about this, but that Lucifer and Satan are the same thing. They're not the same thing. And I'm going to read, because it's on Isaiah. I'm going to read for you. Sorry, it's the wrong thing. Where do I have it? I thought I had it open. Give me a minute. Yes, it is open. Here we go. So Lucifer's name actually means the morning star. It is Venus. In the morning, when you wake up before the sun rises, there is a point of light that you will see in the sky. That's Venus, and that's the morning star. In Greek, it's phosphorus, and it's the bright one, and it is in the book of Isaiah in chapter 14 that it is mentioned as the king of Babylon, and by the prophetic vision of Isaiah. In Hebrew, he's called Yalalebin, which is referred to again as the bringer of the dawn. And I'm going to read the passage, and I'll make some comments, okay? And it's from Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to earth, you who once led low the nation. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heaven. I will rise my throne above the soul of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost height of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the top of cloud. I will make myself the most high. But you are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depth of the pit. Those who see you stare at you, they wonder your fate. Is this the man who shook the earth and made kingdom tremble? The man who made the world a wilderness, who overthrew its cities and would not let his captive go home. So this passage is referring to not necessarily Lucifer, but the king of Babylon. Okay? because the previous verse, the previous verse started on this. On the day the Lord gives you relief from the suffering and turmoil, and from the harsh labor forced onto you, you will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon, how the oppressor has come to an end, how his fury has ended. After describing the death of the king, the taunt continues. And then the other verse comes in. So the king of Babylon, many people have gone to the actual king. Nebuchadnezzar was one of the king. Then there was Nabonidus. There were many kings of Babylon, and some people have said that this is what the passage was referring to. But a lot of people, other scholars, rabbinical scholars, have said no, it actually referred to the fallen angel Lucifer. Isaiah 14:12 became the source of popular conception of a fallen angel motif. Rabbinical Judaism has rejected any belief in a rebel or fallen angel. In the 11th century, Rabbi Eliezer illustrated the origin of the fallen angel myth by giving two accounts on the related angel in the Garden of Eden who seduced Eve. That's the first angel, the snake, okay? Or the other relates to angel of the Beni Elohim, which are the Archon, who cohabits with the daughters of men. Genesis chapter 6, verse 1-4. In association with Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12-18, with the personification of evil called the devil, develop outside of mainstream rabbinical Judaism and later Christian writing, particularly in the Apocalypse. So it is in the Apocalypse that the identification of the king of Babylon and Lucifer became synonymous. But in the early rabbinical version, they understood Lucifer as being something else. And I'm gonna read a little bit further, because here we go. Hold on 1 second. Augustine of Hippo works, Crevitas Dei, 5th century, became the major opinion in Western demonology, including in the Catholic Church. For Augustine, the rebellion of the devil was the first and final cause of evil. By this, he rejected some earlier teaching about Satan having fallen when the world was already created. This is aligned with what I've been trying to tell you. Further, Augustine rejects the idea of envy could have been the first sin, as some early Christian belief evident from the source, like the cave of treasure, in which Satan fallen because of his envy. He envied human and refused to prostrate himself before Adam. But since pride, loving yourself more than other God, which is probably the sin that he committed, is required to be envious, hatred of the happiness of others. St. Augustine argued that evil came first into existence by the free will of Lucifer. Remember, I said this to you last week. This fallen angel emancipated out of the preview of what they were created for. They evolved a free will to do something else. And in this instance, Lucifer attempted to take God's throne is not an assault on the gate of heaven. He didn't necessarily assault heaven. Rather, turn to in which the devil became God in his world. He is the king of Babel. Authored his phrase in Isaiah. He was speaking through the spirit of Lucifer, the head of the devil. He concluded that everyone who falls away from God or within the lobby of Lucifer and is a devil. What he did, in other words, what this is trying to say, what St. Augustine was arguing and saying in his writing, is this. It's not that he refused to prostrate himself before men. His sin is that he evolved free will and he desire to become godlike, not by obeying God and trying to merge with God, but by competing with God, by creating his own kingdom. This is why he's called the king of Babylon, because what he did is that he descended to earth. And in fact, the Gnostic teachings support this, because the Gnostic believe that he is what they call the demiurge, a false god, a creator deity that has created the king of the world, that has created everything that men worship, including money, including all the institutions in the world that keep the world going, but going in a way that will reverse ascension, that will not allow any of us to ever come out of us and ascend and find God. So Lucifer tests us by creating an illusion and controlling the world. This is why he's the deceiver, not so much because he says the wrong thing, but he creates the institution and the environment that corrupts men's ego in a way that allows all of us to be trapped. And one of the ways they keep us trapped is to the monetary system. I've talked to you about the idea of fractional reserve that all banking systems for the past 600 years have used to lend money, and the way the bank, let's say I deposit $100,000 in the bank only keep 10,000 of my money, and then the 90,000 is being invested. So if any of you were to come in, let's say Jendo comes in and wants to borrow 100,000, they take out 10,000 of my money that is real cash that put in. They give themselves the right to claim on paper with a bill, with a note, that they lended me, Jendo, 100,000. But when in fact, they only put 10,000 real money of my money that they took from my account. And then 90,000 is creating out of the thin air. Now, Jendo is going to have to spend the next 30 years, principal plus interest, to pay back not only the actual money, but also 90,000 that was created out of thin air. That is free money. That is energy. Nothing created in the universe, nothing created. You cannot create something from nothing. And that is creating, therefore, karma, a link between the institution that's doing this and us as a population that's going to block us from ascending. Because it will cause us, because of the imbalance, because the money is energy. You and I are going to work, do 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and that amount of work that you're doing, it's energy that you're applying. And that energy is not, the person you're giving the energy to did not do anything to earn it. Again, remember, what we're trying to remove is bread or shame. So it's extremely toxic, and that entire system, Lucifer is behind it. That's the Lucifer. And Lucifer has an entire hierarchy of angels, because he took 1/3 of the heaven down with him. He has an entire hierarchy. In fact, if you study the Kabbalah, you know the tree of life, there is an inverted tree that's below Malkuth, where everything is upside down, called the Klipat. And they are fallen angels, a whole hierarchy, prince and dark princes and all that are below, that are part of his army, that are all trying to reverse ascension. They created a competing kingdom in the 3D, and they have no desire for us to elevate and ascend. That's the influence of Lucifer. Any questions, any comments you may have?
Is there, Pierre, a benefit such as we see with Satan,
Yes.
who serves us to remove our shame, to remove that which would block us from the full gratitude to God? Does Lucifer serve a similar purpose?
Yes, there is a purpose that he serves. Well, let me just say before I even get into that, if you notice that you're a lot of times, and you will notice these people very easily, it's not that they are bad people, but they are still under the illusion of the matrix. They are still trapped in the matrix. They're not awake. And because they are trapped, so when they are trying to fix and repair the banking system by giving lower interest rate, but they're still going to use the system. Do you understand? They're trying to fix the treaty. They don't want the treaty to be gone. They are still entrapped by it. So, and the way they influence us is that if you're under Luciferian influence, you will literally, a lot of people who have that, have encountered these beings, they will actually hear voices a lot of times. There will be an auditory component to lots of people are saying, I heard a voice. A lot of times you think people are crazy, that they're shooting or they're doing something. A voice told me to XYZ. That's Lucifer. That's a deceiver. That's Lucifer. All three of them touch down on us very differently. The archons are trying to be invisible and pushing us from behind. Hasatan is very direct and frontal. Sometimes we can feel also an energetic penetration in us, but there's no question when that happened that there's an intrusion. Whereas for the Luciferian collective, it will feel like you're being deceived, and sometimes it's extremely auditory. It's as if someone is telling you and pushing you and telling you to do something. A lot of people who are being influenced into suicide or having suicidal thought, or those thoughts are coming from the Luciferian collective. So it's a matter for us, and if we can overcome the test, we will inherit. Because what is the test? The test is to awake in the Matrix. I don't know if any of you saw the movie, the series of the first three movies of the Matrix, which are, by the way, the best ones. It talks about how people can awake. It's like you're feeling something is wrong with the system, but you don't know exactly what it is, that something is not right. And what happened over time is that you can begin to understand, and if you are doing the morphogenic listening, and you begin to realize something else is wrong, and you begin to realize that there is another choice. The king of the world, and I remember years ago when I was studying Gnosticism, this is going back almost like 20, 25 years ago. I remember there were, my Gnostic teachers were always careful to tell us, don't go directly against the demiurge, because the demiurge owns everything in this world. It's a code name for the Luciferian influence. It owns everything in this world. And if you openly attack it and say things against it, you will begin to lose everything in your life. Everything that you have, because we're still living in the 3D. And you have to negotiate. There's Janice, to answer you, there's a strange line that you have to negotiate. Because until we're completely into 5D, where we're disconnected to the 3D, we still have anchors here. We have friends, we have family members, and we still have to somehow make sure that we don't lose everything, but yet have an open eye to understand when. The best way to describe it, you have to have preferences, but not attachments to the things of the world. And if you can be in that state, that collective will not influence you anymore. Preferences about everything, but not attachments. In Tibetan Buddhism, they call about that, for all of these fallen energies and all the things that they are doing, they talk about all the time of enlightenment as being non-attachment to people, places, and things. Did that answer your question, Janice?
Yes, and if I may follow up, is this a class that we call demons,
Yes,
is this then the minions of Lucifer?
yes.
And,
Lucifer is an entire hierarchy of being. Remember, the myth is that he took a third of the heaven with him, because when the Archon made their decision as well, the chief of them, Shemshazad, decided this is what he was going to do, but he made all the other ones swear with him, and they made a pact, and they moved together. Lucifer did the same thing, and there was a whole hierarchy of fallen being that he took with him, and they are not in the heavens. They are the demiurge, and they're on earth. They're holding things. They're trying to hold the status quo, and they're trying to reverse ascension.
mm-hmm. Such as Mephistopheles in the Faustian legend, the Germanic legend.
They are prince of, and there are other names I don't want to mention anymore, because when you name things, you call them.
Oh my goodness! Do that.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to call nothing. I just want to teach, but there's a whole series of fallen, and you can go online and you know, fallen hierarchy of being. You will get a whole list.
Thank you.
Of the name, and they're different level. They're four princes. They're minister. They're all different levels. It's a whole hierarchy, and he's at the top. Now, I want to differentiate that from, let's say, for example, the archangel of death, which is mentioned not by name, but in the last plague of Egypt, that God had asked the archangel through Moses, putting the sign of the Lamb, which was a towel in blood, a towel in blood in the doorway of all the people, the children of Israel. And so that during the night, the archangel of death would not touch those households. And the firstborn of everyone in Egypt died. So that being is not part of the hierarchy that I'm talking about now. That being is the recycling bin for the entire multiverse. The same way Satan is not part of that. A lot of time people, or human being, tends to be very linear and try to simplify things, and they put an X there and they said it equals, you know, that or the other, and things are much more complex than that. And I wanted to kind of like, you know, and again, you can go online and do I could go at great length to explain each one of those collective, as I have in past classes, and all of them are like, and I can talk for hours upon hours and months upon months about each one of them. But I just wanted to make you understand that as an emotionally intelligent, socially intelligent, and spiritually intelligent being, that's the takeaway I want you to have. You need to differentiate with which collective may be triggering you at the moment. So if you're concerned and you're worried is about only the 3D stuff, and trying to fix it and repair it and spin it and do it in a way that still going to maintain the 3D, you are still being spun around by the Luciferian collective. Whereas if you are emotionally being triggered and you notice in your relationship with people, there's flares of rage and anger that seem so out of character, that's Archon influence. And if you're under attack and you feel and when you're under those attacks by Satan, you're going to feel overwhelmed, like you don't know how to overcome this. Only connection and prayer to God can actually help you. Now, the Luciferian influence, you can begin to, please forgive me, I love you, and I let go, and realize, again, praise and pray to God, and realize that everything of this world is temporary, that you don't belong to this world in any case, And whatever it is that you have, whatever the archon and the demiurge is trying to, the demiurge is trying to hold on to and make you feel is important, and the world cannot function if that thing or that thing doesn't exist, all of that can go away, and what will remain will always be your connection to God. And if you can be in that space in prayer, then it will, the influence of Lucifer and the voices will begin to dissipate in the background. They will begin to vanish. They will begin to go away. I've had the opportunity to speak with a few friends and clients who have been suicidal, and they are hearing all kinds of things. And some of them have actively communicated and have told me that they have communicated with Lucifer directly. In their naivete and thinking that they are being occultists and they are being whatever, and it's a mistake. We have an old proverb back home: don't scratch while it doesn't itch, because you're going to get an itch. There's no reason you have to connect with that energy system. The demiurge is difficult enough to begin with. Any other comments or questions? Celidia just reminded me just before we started recording that Taylor Caldwell wrote this great book years ago called Dialogue with the Devil. It's a tiny book. It is extraordinary because it's a conversation between Archangel Michael speaking for God and Lucifer. It is extraordinary. I'm telling you, it will fill a whole bunch of gap for you. And she wrote this while she was still a teenager, I believe. Is that correct, Celidia? I think so. I think she was still a teenager when she wrote this. And apparently
yes, that's right. She was a teenager.
Yes, and apparently the audio exists on YouTube, which I didn't know, because the book is out of print. So I would recommend that you take a look at this, because it's just like unbelievable. The background information and the language and I mean, she's clearly channeled this. This is like being a reincarnation of somebody that's so mature, that has such deep connection to both the angelic realm and that collective, to be able to connect like this, and the writing, just juicy stuff.
What I found at the beginning of the listening to the audio is that the lady, it's like what you just said a while ago, Pierre, that you don't want to say the names of these angels, because when you say them, there's an energy that you bring into the atmosphere. But before she started the audio, I noticed that she prayed and asked for the Archangel Michael to cover the atmosphere, to cover whoever's going to listen to this, because of the fact that that same thing you just said. By listening to it, you never know what can embody you, what can happen to you, you know?
Yeah.
And I found that very interesting. Thank you for sharing this with us, Lydia. Thank you.
Thank you, Marjorie. You're right, and the thing about it is that we need to be aware, because as we're transiting, because that being is holding the metrics, that's collective are holding the metrics in place, and the metrics are being dismantled by solar flares, by the Earth magnetic north and south pole reversal, by all kinds of things. The status quo is being disturbed by the shift. So they are busy trying to battle and hold their dominion. and we are just pawn on a gigantic cosmic chess game. And what I'm saying to you is that through prayer and calling upon Archangel Michael and the seven mighty archangel, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Camiel, Jophiel, Zachariel, Uriel, it will help you a lot to keep yourself together, because a lot of time the demiurge is so powerful that we're talking about a cosmic entity calling upon a celestial being to help you for support is of great help, of great help. Of course, God being the only principle, but in addition to that, his agents as the seven mighty archangel, it's of great help. I've met several people years ago. I remember I was at a WISAC in Vienna. No, not Vienna, it was Moonseed. It was a Moonseed in the Alps, and I remember meeting somebody who was bombarded by this collective. Bombarded. There were constant and as I was talking to her, we were at a restaurant during a break, and she kept on saying, as we're talking now, I can hear them saying all kinds of vile things in my ear. They're cursing and they're saying all kinds of vile things. And I remember at that day, I liked her a lot. I said to her, do I have your permission to pray for you? She said yes. And it wasn't only me. I know I couldn't do it alone. I recruited 7 people. And all 7 of us, I gave them the Archangel Michael sword prayer. And we did it together at the same time. In 7 days, all the voices had stopped. Everything had stopped. Until today, I have a very close relationship with this woman. She was from Australia. And she actually went and is now dedicating a lot of the work that she's doing now is connected to the influence of Archangel Michael, because Archangel Michael has helped her so much for the kind of assault that she was under all the time. She was highly clairaudient and she was hearing them all the time. So if you're having that kind of problem, the Archangel Michael sword prayer is a surefire way to kind of like, well, and if it's too much for you, ask for other people to help to pray with you. And if you can get 7 separate people to do it, it's going to make a dramatic difference. Now, in addition to that, the people at WISAC were highly spiritual people as well. They're highly devotional. And they all participated, and it was a matter of like 7 days. The issue was not an issue anymore. She got the upper hand. She said she heard some of them after that, a few here and there, but she had the upper hand already. She knew what it felt like to be empowered, whereas before she was so disempowered, she didn't know what to do. Any other questions or comments about this before I move on?
I do have a quick question, Pierre. If you're connected to God, to the blessed field, to that source, will that prevent the Luciferian troop from having access?
The access they're going to get is if you have attachments.
I see. You said preferences, but not attachments.
Yes, it's through your attachment that they come in.
Attachments.
Yes. So if you have preferences and you don't care how God solves it, so if they're trying to come, if it's trying to come this way or that way, you're like, okay, God's plan has been rearranged. I lean on that one. It's okay. And if you're kind of like blasé about how God, no matter how the blessing comes, as long as it comes, you're okay.
Hmm.
You
But
understand?
the goal of the blessing, no matter how it's provided
Exactly. If
is still an attachment.
Well, no, if you're connected to God, it's not just an attachment, it's the law. It's a certainty. It's a connection to the law.
There we
Right?
go, the certainty, yes.
Yeah, it's a connection to the law. Whereas the attachment is you controlling and managing and saying, I want it this way. It has to be this color and that. You know.
I see. Okay,
See what
got
I'm
it.
saying? Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes. Yes. You're welcome. Any other comments or questions? Now, the fallen hierarchy that's below the spine all have different names, and their name means different things in Hebrew, in different languages, in Greek, etc. And they are all aspects of him because he's a vast being. He was the brightest one, but he is not the dawn. He was a false dawn. And again, he's trying to create a kingdom that is going to be a rival to God's kingdom. You see what I'm saying? So we have to be very aware of this and give us the opportunity to understand how to deal with that energy if ever you are. But if you're praying, like Janice was saying, if you're praying to God all the time and you're already surrendering, and again, you're praising God all the time and you're in gratitude, because you're praising and you're in gratitude and you're surrendering, you're allowing God to do what God wants to do and however the gift may want to come. If you're doing this already, the Luciferian energy will not touch you because it needs attachments. All right. Let me talk about something related to short-term kind of predictions. I cannot get into the details at this moment, but what I can say to you is this.
It's me, Pierre.
Oh, it's you? Okay. I can say to you at this moment that I have information related to dreams that I've had. I can't get into the details. It's too long. I need too long to explain it. But I suspect through the dreams, one of the main interpretation of it, there is some sort of a plot that's afoot to create in a major city during the Christmas and holiday season a terror attack that's going to create an explosion and a major loss of life. That's all I can say at the moment. And I don't want you to be scared. I'm trying to help you be proactive. And this is the reason why last week and for the past week since I received this information, I've been asking all of you to do your torsion field everywhere. Do it in the morning. It takes 12 breaths to do it. Do it at night before you go to sleep, because the torsion field keeps you in neutrality. So that whatever it is that's going to be created, you will have a bubble of protection around you that's going to cause not only you to be protected, but depending on how big the field is around you, it's going to create a bubble of protection around your circle of influence, the general neighborhood, city that you're in. It's going to create a bubble of safety. And what I can say as well is that I'm going to talk a little bit about reminding you who the Guardian Alliance of Lights are. I'm going to talk for the remainder of the time who they are. We need to be proactive at this moment. And I used to do this, and for the past 4 years, during COVID and everything else, I have not been doing this. And now that I'm starting to do this again, because of the dream that I had, I felt reconnected to a source that was so beautiful for me that I'm wondering, how did I get disconnected to that? Why is it that I've not been doing this? So I want to talk about first. I do the torsion field in the morning. I do it in the evening. If I'm going to drive a car, I would sit in the car for 2 minutes, turn the ignition on for 2 minutes, even though it may be idling, but I let the motor warm up for a little bit. While this is going on, I create the torsion field. I close my eyes, I create the torsion field around me in the car, and I ask the guardian alliance of light to take me to my destination safely. If I'm in a plane, the moment I sit down and I buckle up, I close my eyes, I do the torsion field around myself and the entire plane. In other words, no matter what I'm doing, when I go on the waterfront to do my meditation, I do the torsion field immediately in the vicinity, in the area. I saw an open market where this event occurred, like a Christmas market or like a fair, or it's an open market. So I'm asking you to protect yourself by doing the torsion field anytime around your home and anytime you go outside of your home. Anytime you travel, because all of you are going to travel for holidays, going to friends, to family, create the torsion field. Ask for protection. Because the field of neutrality will neutralize any attack. As I've shared with some of you, the way the torsion field technology came to me is that I was under attack in Guyville, upstate, by a group of people, a family that somehow thought that I was, for a reason that I cannot even explain, that I was their enemy. And it was gradual, because I began to notice that my mail, rural delivery, my mailbox is on the street. I began to notice that my mail was not being delivered for about a month. When I went to the post office and asked them, I said, every Saturday we deliver your mail. We don't know. Do you suspect you know who? And the person, the family had declared basically war against me. And I knew this. I said, I know. And they asked me, do you want to go to the sheriff? I said, no, I'm not. I'm not doing this because I'm not there during the week. I don't know what people could do to my house when I'm not present. And one night when I arrived at my house, I felt the moment I turned on the key an invasion, because I'm alone. I got there, it was 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night on a Friday, and no one was there. I was scared like there is no tomorrow. Okay? I was terrified because I could feel an intrusion, like I was violated, and I kept on checking the doors and checking everywhere, and I found that my basement door was kicked in. To my mind, they were in my house. And I got scared and I went upstairs, and I remember calling Celidia. We had a long conversation, and Celidia did a prayer treatment for me to calm me down, because I'm not afraid of negative energy. I'm from Haiti. That kind of stuff doesn't scare me. But that's upstate. Everybody has a gun, bullets, or different things. And after the prayer treatment, I went back down the living room. I sat down, and I remember sitting down, and all that could come out of my heart, because Celidia really helped calm me down, was I asked God for help. And I remember, I don't know what happened. I went to the white space. It was just like a flash, and then I was in this immense volume where everything was white. There was no top, no bottom, no front. I was disoriented, but I felt at the rest. And then I sensed like kind of like right around here that somebody was staring at me. You know how you can feel somebody like staring at you? I opened my eyes. There was a man staring at me. I have to tell you, I peed on myself a little bit because not even 2 hours before, I was afraid. There was an intrusion in my home, a perceived intrusion, and I was afraid that I wanted to flee and run back to the city. The only reason why I didn't run, it's because this man's body, his skin, was as white as a paper. Deep, deep blue eyes. Everything in his eyes was completely blue, like glowing blue. And there were markings all over his face. I don't understand the marking, but there were markings all over his face. And he telepathically communicated with me and said to me, basically, I'm going to show you a way where nothing in time and space can hurt you. And I said, yes, in my mind. And then all of a sudden, I saw the geometry of the torsion field. And then he said to me at that point, close your eyes now and do it. And do it around the entire property. And that's exactly what I did. And when I opened my eyes after it was done, I thought he was still there. He was gone. He was gone. He was not there anymore. And I did it every day, morning and night. That was Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, Sunday around noon. I drove back to New York City. On Monday, I had news from Lydia that one of the members of the family had passed away, committed suicide. I have to tell you one thing. The only reason that the Guardian Alliance of Light came in to me was because during the month leading to this event, I'm from Haiti. I know many ways to do things to send back energy back. These people were attacking me psychically. I had nightmares in my dream every night. But I remember saying even to Lydia, when you're a giant, you move gingerly. You move carefully and slowly. If I attack them back, I know how big my energy system is. I'm gonna take them out of this world. And the karma, I can't deal with this. I'm not committing that kind of karma. Because of this choice of not kicking the paddle of the ping pong to send the ball back, that collective was attracted to me. That's why they came to me. Because what the thing he said in my head is that it's a torsion field of light and neutrality. I'm going to show you how to become neutral. And they've been my teacher and my guide since then. And it's 12 torsion fields that are nested on top of each other like a Russian babushka, the nested egg. One rotating in one direction, the other one rotating in the opposite direction. One direction, opposite direction. And they're all nested on top of each other. And by the end, you're in the throne room of God. And the collective, and it took me a long time to get all the details. Over the many years, I've got a lot of information about who they are. They are called the Guardian Alliance of Light, and they're a collective of beings who are responsible for holding the energy of neutrality. Everything in the universe is in battle, is in opposition. Positive, negative, man, woman, day, night, etc. But also exist in the atom, neutrons that are zero charge. They are the cosmic version of neutron, the conscious version of that zero charge. And they exist in all dimensions of light and space. Now, me and you are in 3D. Our struggles in 3D through the test that I've been talking about over these three collective, which I just described, is for us to achieve neutrality in 3D and become active members of the Guardian Alliance of Light as well, to ground neutrality instead of polarity on Earth. Okay? So that's the challenge that we have. We have to figure out a way to become neutral here. So that, whereas the first collective, when it comes in and creates a torsion field around me, the first torsion field counterclockwise spinning, that's actually 12 members, 12 of the Guardian Alliance of Light in 4th dimension that comes in and create a torsion field in the 4D around me, in my next dimensional body, which is in 4D. Then the opposite occur. In 5D, another 12 higher collective in 5D comes in and they project onto the top of me temporarily as an act of generosity and kindness. They project now on top of the first one, rotating the other direction, and other torsion field where the neutrality that they know in 5D is now on top of me. Then they continue 60, 70, 80, all the way back into the throne room of God in complete neutrality. Every healing that I have done for the past, since 2008, when this collective came to me, is connected directly to them. So what I'm suggesting, or what I'm saying to you, is that I'm trying to remind you who they are. Some of you have heard that story from me before. I just want you to understand that this collective, these beings are in all dimension of time and space, all the way back into God. They are members of that collective. Now we are the grounding rod for the 3D, and if we're not neutral, if we're in attachment, if we're busy battling, if we're busy doing getting influenced by all these forces, they cannot ground their influence on Earth. We are the key for it. This is why I keep saying all the time, the ascension mechanic, the ascension path that I follow is the Melchizedek ascension path of neutrality. Because it's through these beings that I'm able to achieve this kind of neutrality. The way I've said to you before, that's when I'm connected to the blessed field and I can feel the rest and the serenity of God, and I'm so at peace. And if I so happen that someone is asking me for a prayer of intercession, I can think of the person in that vast field, and I can say to them, may the peace and the serenity and the healing and liberation that I know pass on to you. And as I say pass on to you, I see the energy leaving me and going temporarily in that person, wherever I feel them energetically. That's what the Guardian Alliance of Light are doing to each one of us, 12 of them, for every torsion field created in that dimension. They are passing on to us temporarily the neutrality, the rest, and the liberation that they know. Any questions, any comments? I want you to do this. Let me rephrase that. I would highly suggest that you do this. morning and night, or every time you're moving, you're transiting, you're traveling, particularly in this very strange period between December to January that we're in right now. Moreover, that mechanic of the torsion field, if you're doing it every day and you put your entire being and consciousness into it, and you're doing it diligently 2 to 3 times a day, I guarantee you that the first level or the first stage of ascension will happen for you, which is the power increase. This is the way in the mechanic of ascension that I teach. You achieve the power increase through the torsion field, through neutrality. It will heal you. It will do all kinds of things with you. As you sit in, and you don't need to rush to it. Like I can do it in 12 breaths, but when I have the time, sometimes it takes me an hour to do all 12 of them. I do the first one and I sit and bask in the radiation and the energy and the expansion of that 4th dimension. And when I feel, and I get to know, because what it looks like to me when the torsion field gets created and I sit in it for a minute, I can see 12 filaments. The same way the sun has filaments around, wrapping around, I can see filaments. And I can see that each filament is actually the actual core, energetic core of one of the guardian projected onto me, on top of me, to help me achieve neutrality, to overlight me. Then once I am comfortable, I get to know them, then I let the next collective come in. I can do the torsion field very fast, or I can do it, if I have the time, 45 minutes for all 12 of them to be created. And the more time you spend, the more acclimated you will be to the energy, the more shift it will create in you, the more healing it will provide you, the more cellularly you're going to be, your DNA will be reorchestrated, because a lot of the disease that we have is that we have all kind of antagonistic desires and energies that are fighting our own body and our own self. We're fighting among ourselves because we intend and we unintend too many times per minute. When you can entrain all your entire cellular structure to be in neutrality, suddenly it harmonizes everything. There is no necessity to have internal battle. And everything becomes at rest, and healing is found. Any questions, any comments? The being that I saw in that vision, in that original connection that I physically saw, is a Larian White. They are one of the first great race that was created when everything began to precipitate in from the Lyra galaxy. They are very old and very knowledgeable, and dimensionally they are highly, highly elevated. So I'm very grateful for their tutelage, for their influence, for everything that they taught me, and I'm apologizing. I'm sorry for having not practiced it on a regular basis for the past 3 to 4 years, 3.5 years. So now I'm back again connecting to it because they gave me foresight, and it was the very strange foresight, because the dream that I received was extremely disjointed. I kept flipping from reality to reality, almost like a perception of another dimension or a different way of seeing, where I was flipping from one scene to the next scene to the next scene to the next scene, and it kept on running around like crazy. That's why it would take me a very long time to try to explain this to you verbally, but the end result is that there is something is afoot. And if we all of us radiate the neutrality that we know in the city that we're in and the environment that we're in, it will help the landing of such an event to be just a minor nuisance. At this point, I don't think we can change it, but I think the landing can be softened.
Yeah, if this isn't in New York, is there a way that our practice can extend to whatever metropolis will be targeted?
I don't know which metropolis. I wish I knew. It was a downtown area. There were tall buildings. I know it's an urban area somewhere in the States. I just don't know where.
I guess there's no way then that we can extend the torsion field for all of the US to be.
Well, you could do that, I suppose, if you have a group of people, particularly if there were people in every major city that were doing this work. That was my hope, to every city, every location, major cities, to have somebody that's doing the same practice that we're doing and to work in lockstep with everyone. But suffice it to say, at this moment, since that is not what's happening, do the best that you can with what you have right now.
You know, each of us has a field of influence, as you say, or a connection to people in other cities. Maybe through our field of connection, our work can include them and therefore their city.
Okay, I did this class for the council last Sunday. So one of the things that happen when you're doing the torsion field on a regular basis, particularly when you slow down the time, it's not 12 breaths, you take longer. What happened over time is that you begin to experience how big the torsion field really is around you.
Mm.
Maybe the first time it begins to be just you and the neighbor's apartment. And then it begins to be the entire building, and it begins to be the block, and it begins to be 10 block, and it begins to be. I remember when the first stage of my ascension began, I remember my field was all the way at JFK Airport. It extended that far. So what happened is that when you're in that state, so expanded, you begin to feel everybody that's in that field. But from a neutral perspective, because you're not attacking them, your perception of them, because you're not trying to spy on them or trying to gather information, so you're not a threat. And as you extend that way, you may perceive or sense that somebody at 12 o'clock or whichever direction, up, down, whichever the place may be, is experiencing panic right now. Somebody's in fear, So although you're not allowed to commingle your energy field by sending people direct energy without their request and their consent, but what you can radiate out that is universal is love.
That's nice. I like that. And you have often said, you would say, may the peace or whatever that I know pass on to you.
Yes.
Maybe we could do that.
I don't even do that, because when I do this, I still ask for permission.
Mm-hmm.
What I can do is that I can radiate generosity and kindness.
Mm-hmm.
I can radiate love. I can in my heart desire that they elevate and they've experienced the expansion and the liberation that I'm feeling right now. I don't pass on anything on top of them without consent. You see what I mean? It's not the same thing.
Radiate means
Like entrainment and broadcast.
it's up to them to receive.
That's correct. That's correct.
I understand.
Whereas if I'm saying with the peace and the serenity I know and the liberation I know pass on to you, I'm actually, it's an active thing energetically. I'm displacing something from me and I'm putting it on top of them. In this instance, I'm just radiating love. And by the way, if you fail this test, because it is a test, the increase in power, and plus you will know a lot of things about a lot of people. When you're that expanding, you begin to also have, you begin to be connected with power. You manifest very easy. You think of something, it's in front of you. You manifest very easily. So it's important for us to understand that as we are doing this, and the torsion field is getting created, there is a test connected to it, which is to abuse this expansion. And as a novice in that state, it's very easy to do. That's why I'm giving you this warning. You radiate, you broadcast, and you allow it to expand from you. Love, kindness. Let people get there in their own, they don't need to be disempowered. I hope that you get empowered and that you arrive at this place soon. But to displace your energy and place it on top of them, that's not permitted. And if you keep doing this, and all of us make mistakes, including me, I made mistakes. Okay? I don't know if I ever shared this story with you. When that began to happen to me, my energy became so big, and there were so many negative ego. There were 4 or 5 negative ego things that I was not taking care of because I thought they were part of my personality. They also became as big, because when you become that big, your demons become as big. And it's like taking the genie out of the bottle. And what I had to do, even in my sleep, is that I had to keep monitoring, because I was manifesting. I had to think of things, and they were showing up in my life immediately. And I began to be very concerned, because some of the stuff that I was suppressing were not kind. They were self-serving. It's not that they were evil, but they were self-serving. And I was editing all the time, like an editor. No, you're not allowed. You're not allowed. And the more I suppressed, the bigger it became. And one day I did something extraordinary. And I don't know how many teachers will actually do this, because when you manifest, you attract clients. People run to you, particularly in the demiurge environment we exist in. People will run to you and you will create a huge following. And I remember one night I came in, I was too exhausted after 2.5 months of editing, even in my sleep. I prayed to God. I said, God, take this cup away from me. I'm not ready. Wow. Only God. I just discovered something. I'll share that with you in a minute. Let me finish with the first story. Wow. I just got a deep and penetrating insight. Anyway, so what I did one night is that I prayed. I kneeled down on the floor in front of my bed, and I prayed. I said, God, take this cup away from me. I'm not ready. It's too much power. I'm scared that I'm going to hurt somebody. And so that's the last thing I wanted to do. And I went to sleep, and the next morning, my energy was back in my body. And the insight I just received, you remember several weeks ago, I kept telling you that in the process of doing the absolute certainty, for 3 or 4 days, I arrived at a place where I was connected to the complete certainty of God, and I felt like I had the power of God. And for whatever reason, there was a background thought that said to me, "You're not ready. You're going to abuse this," and somehow it turns a switch off for me. I know now when I turn off the switch, when I did that prayer many moons ago when I thought I was not ready, and I kneeled down. That's when I turn off the switch myself.
Are you ready now?
Yes.
Can you turn on the switch then?
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
I'm laughing. I love it.
I just realized that just this minute in recounting the story. Because I've been in meditation for weeks now trying to figure out what happened, when did that happen? I didn't realize that night when I kneeled down, I turned it off.
God is good, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
was faithful to your request.
yes. Well, and also, I told you before, and I'm saying it again, I wouldn't be half as smart as I think I am if I didn't have you in my life. Because I need to teach you. It would have taken me another 6 months before I arrived at that conclusion. And because I needed to teach you and I recounted the story, it came back to me. Wow. Anyway, yeah, I have more meditation to do. It's amazing. Any other questions or comments? Again, your healing and everything else, do the torsion. Now, the torsion field, again, you're going to find when you start doing the torsion field that at certain point, you may end up having visions. Like, let's say, 4th collective, 5 collective, all of a sudden, all kinds of things begin to happen. And at some point, you may even feel like something may be attacking you, or you may have visions that are not comfortable or that are worrying or whatever. This is because you're not neutral to the collective in that dimensions. In other words, it's a whole learning curve. Because I thought initially when the first Guardian Alliance of Light, the Lion and White, came to me, that all I had to do was declare myself neutral. Boy, was I wrong. It was a whole, and still is, an education. But I can tell you, the night that Celidia was at the airport in Atlanta and she was stranded in Atlanta, couldn't find a flight. And in less than, I think I was in the 4th or 5th torsion field overlighting her. Then all of a sudden she says to me, hold on, yeah, I'll call you back. They're making an announcement. She called me back 10 minutes later to tell me that she's on the plane, and everyone that was in standby is in the plane, and she was number 48 on standby list. It was the torsion field technology that did this miracle. When you surrender into it and you do it with your entire consciousness and being, it creates incredible miracles. And it is my hope to have 144,000 people around the world holding that energy, particularly as we move into the transit. So initially, you're going to end up having, again, at some of the collective experiences, that going to feel a little bit jarring. It's because you're not in neutrality with the collective in that realm yet. And over time, that neutrality will be achieved.
May I just add a comment? As you were talking about the revelation of the understanding you achieved, it has caused me to ask myself, what request did I make of God that is perhaps active still after many, many years, that I need to know to take the cup back?
Hmm.
That may be an interesting meditation to see
Yeah.
how it could impact all of us in some way.
Yes. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, and I'm gonna do the torsion field. I'm gonna guide you into the torsion field now. So that might be when you are in neutrality, that might be something you want to ponder and ask the guardians. 5 minutes, 5-minute break. Make a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly.
Allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. And the guardian alliance of light approach you, offering to give you their shields of light and protection and a band of neutrality. If you are ready to accept this gift at this time, answer affirmatively. And let the energy of the first guardian begin in the core of the earth, counter-rotating, rising through the bottom of your feet, passing through you, removing all fears, exiting outside of your head and into outer space in the blessed field, while creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. And the energy of the second guardian extends above your head, dropping from souls in the blessed field, rotating clockwise, moving through your core, passing through you, removing all fears, and dropping into the very core and center of the earth, while creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. The axis at the bottom of your feet extends and it attracts now the energy of the third guardian, rising while rotating clockwise, passing through you, moving through your body, exiting outside of your head, and creating all around you and its source a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of your head extends and it attracts now the energy of the fourth guardian, cascading down from souls while rotating clockwise, dropping into your body and removing all fears, dropping into the core of the earth while creating all around you a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the bottom of my feet extends, and from the core of the earth rises a counterclockwise axis of light, moving through my core, exiting outside of my head while casting out all fears, going into souls and creating all around me a torsion field of light and neutrality. The axis at the top of my head extends and it attracts now the energy of the sixth guardian, cascading down from souls, passing through the top of my head and through my core, removing all fears and dropping into the core of the earth while creating all around me a torsion field of light and neutrality. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. The axis at the bottom of my feet extends and it attracts now the energy of the second seven guardian, counter rotating from the core of the earth, rising higher and higher, passing through my core and removing all fears as it goes into the very heart of God and creating all around me the torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of my head extends and it attracts now the energy of the eighth guardian, cascading down from souls while rotating clockwise, passing through my core while removing all fears and dropping into the core of the earth while creating all around me the torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the bottom of my feet extends and it attracts now the energy of the night guardian, counter-rotating from the core of the earth, moving through the bottom of my feet, passing through me, exiting outside of my head while removing all fears and going into source, while creating all around me a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of my head extends and it attracts now the energy of the 10th guardian, cascading down from source while creating a torsion field of neutrality, passing through my core, dropping into the core of the earth, and encompassing my entire being. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. The axis at the bottom of my feet extends and it attracts now the energy of the 11th guardian, counter-rotating, beginning in the core of the earth, passing through the bottom of my feet, moving through my core and removing all fears, exiting outside of my head and into souls and creating all around me a torsion field of neutrality. The axis at the top of my head extends and it attracts now the energy of the 12th and final guardian, cascading down from souls, rotating clockwise, passing through my core, removing all fears, and creating, as it grounds into the core of the earth, the torsion field of neutrality. Observe the 12 counter rotating axes that are spinning in your core. Help me find the switches that are turned off, that are resisting the ascension process in me. By your grace, mercy, and power, let these switches turn back on. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you.
How you feeling?
Thank you, Pierre. It was really helpful. I found what I needed.
Yeah.
Yay!
Eureka.
Yes. I have to work out the details, but I know where to look.
Yes, and the more you sit in this, the longer you can do it. 45 minutes at the most, you will learn so much, and you will enter, and your energy field will expand, and your ascension process will begin, and you will be able to manifest.
Thank you.
Out for the test. Okay. You cannot commingle your energy grid with anyone without consent, but you can radiate love, compassion, and your desire for them to find their path on their own.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
I want to thank you all for listening to me tonight. If you're listening to us on Patreon, thank you for your support. If you're watching us on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Blessings, everyone. Good night, my family. Love you.
Good night.
Good
Love
night.
you.
You too. Thank you.